Hello, welcome back to FPL IQ. I'm Rob, aka FPL Hall, and today I'm joined by teacher FPL Lucian, who is also a Wolves fan. And this one is the last in the series, and we've been looking at strengths and weaknesses, players to pick and avoid, predicted lineups, but also, sadly, as a Wolves fan, Lucian is probably going to be telling people how to target his own side in FPL. So we'll go through the predicted lineup in a moment. The breaking news is Wolves have no manager. We're starting the season with a managerless Wolves because of all the off-field trouble, which was in my notes for the weaknesses as it is. And he has gone. So, Lucian, how are you feeling about Wolverhampton Wanderers?
Throughout the entire preseason, I've just been looking at the table, trying to pinpoint 3 teams that are worse than Wolves. So thankfully for the existence of, the 2 promoted sides. No disrespect to them, but I think Wolves still have a slight player quality advantage over them. But nowadays, when I open my Premier League app and I see, how all the teams are arranged alphabetically, you see Wolves at the very bottom. You stare at that 20. You stare at that 20. And the more you stare at it, the more you believe it. But I'm going to keep a brave face. And this is an FPL show. So just as I did last season, I own multiple Arsenal players against Wolves. I had a lot of Brighton players when they won 6-0. So, let's be ruthless about it and tear open the band-aids as quickly as possible. Let's go.
So, as a predicted lineup, I've put a 4-3-1-2, but we've discussed the fluidity of formations and attacking and defensive phases, things like that. So it could be a 4-3-1-2, it could be a 4-3-3, but the players are what's important in terms of this. So in goal, Sarr usually does well because he faces lots of shots and saves lots of them. He's a good goalkeeper. Semedo at right back. Dawson and Kilman as the 2 centre-backs, and Bueno or Totti in that left-back position. Lemina as the more defensive-minded midfielder, with Mateus and either Gomez or Traore as the 3rd central midfielder. In attack, Kuna, who could be just behind the front 2 or just in front of them. In that, it depends on what the tactic's going to be. That's up in the air now as well, considering it's a whole new manager. And then we've got Neto on one side and then Hwang or Sarabia on the other. So, predicted lineup. Obviously, I discussed this with you being a Wolves fan. We made a couple of little changes. But now it's a different manager. Do you still think they'll start? It's so close to the start of the season. Do you think it's still going to be something like this?
We have to accept the fact that if there were no transfers out, if we looked at the exact same Wolves squad from last season and we were to pick a 4-3-3 right now, literally half the squad would be different. You'd have Ruben Neves in there, Adama, Raul might even be in contention for a spot, Diego Costa would still be around. And we have the likes of Podence and Joao Moutinho all filling up the flanks. I mean, hell, even Johnny Otto would have been first choice at left back at some point. But here we have all the senior players either relegated to the bench or gone to Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, and we've even sold one of our marquee signings, Collins, to Brentford. It really is that much of a clear out because of the philosophy of our owner, Jeff Shee. So, I think at this point, we have to accept that, whether this will be a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-1-2 or 4-3-1-2, we have to be open-minded about it, and we have to accept that the remaining players did show glimpses of being a star, because a lot of these players that were brought in were potential stars in the first place. Even the likes of Gonçalo Guedes, who is now, back from exile in Portugal, he will be given a second chance. A lot of these players waiting in the wings have immense talent waiting to be unlocked. Some of them already showing it from last season, some of it already playing out of position, which we will potentially discuss later. So I am optimistic with some of the fringe players, but this starting 11 has big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and with that, it's not just philosophy. You needed to sell some players for some, financial reasons, and it's really not looking good. Your manager has left because, like you said, a lot of your first team players have gone. It's not ideal, but there are maybe some strengths for this side, so we'll start there first. I just said it's a fair price defense. They're a top 10 side for goals conceded, but bottom 10 for goals conceded and shots conceded in the box. So Sarr seems like a good option. He was the 5th best goalkeeper, but he's 5 million now, so he's 0.5 million too much. But the defense are all 4.5 million. That's it. That's all I've got for strengths. Yeah. Sorry, I know it must be horrible for you, but any strengths?
I mean, from a Wolves fan, like if you look, okay, if you did not know that they lost a manager, if you did not pay attention to any of the players they sold, right? You open up the Premier League page, you flip open the Wolves page, right? And you look at all their players individually. You're looking at Podence, you know what he can offer. Mateus Nunes, you know what he offers. Semedo, not so sure, but thank goodness Doherty is back. Ainuri, Bueno, Cunha, Neto, you know what they are about. So their strengths are still there. I think Neto's injury aside, nothing is really holding back any of the players from reaching the potential they had from their European challenging season. Nothing at all. Even with the departure of Ruben Neves, there were games last season where we did cope without Neves in the first place. Thank goodness for Mario Lemina's arrival. So, I mean, we already have solutions put in place. It's just a matter of how intense we're going to be or how passive we're going to be, depending on opposition. And yeah, it's just a matter of who we take seriously and whether we take advantage of the key moments of our opponents, similarly, which we did last season. One more strength I'd like to add to this Wolves side is that we have somehow been really street smart in taking advantage of certain opponents when they were at their lowest points last season. When Bruno Lage was sacked midway through last season, Wolves were like bottom 3. I think they were 18th. No, they were 20th at Christmas actually. And what happened was we had a run after the World Cup that read like Chelsea, Brentford, Brighton, something like that. And it was terrible. We were looking at it and Chelsea and the others were on the up. But somehow we beat Chelsea 1-0. Somehow we also like barely managed to draw with Brentford. We drew with Newcastle. We got all these weird results that we did not deserve because we took advantage of Liverpool's instability when we won 3-0. We took advantage of Chelsea's instability when we won 1-0. It is those key moments that will drive Wolves forward, that will, despite being the underdog, give the Wolves players some belief that their ability alone can carry them through the hard and difficult games. So that's what I feel, that mentality, that resilience is already there, that gives them the edge over fresh teams that really will have no idea what will hit them come this season.
And I think you said it earlier as well. One little strength you can add is it's a team with potential that could still be unlocked. It's not a particularly old team. It's a team that's quite well bonded. They've been together a while. So I think there is some potential individually for these guys to be pretty good. All right, so I'll just go through the weaknesses before my daughter keeps attacking me. Off-field issues, because you've had to sell most of your top players. Neves has gone, arguably your best player. Leaves a big hole in the middle for me. Attack fewest, this is the big one for me, your attack. Fewest goals in the Premier League, the whole Premier League, including the relegated teams, by 3 goals. And it's not just the conversion. 4th for lowest attempts. 3rd worst in the box, and 3rd for worst for biggest chances. Raul Jimenez is gone, so you don't really even have a recognised main striker. So it's a huge avoid for the attack as well. Okay, so what do you think about the weaknesses?
No. I mean, when she was saying no, that pretty much summed it up for our attitude towards Wolves in general. And really, I'm gonna really highlight these weaknesses for the purpose of FPL because we really, once again, are targeting Wolves' various weaknesses. It's not just in the stats. It really isn't just in the stats. I think statistically, when Wolves attack, right? When you watch games as a Wolves fan, no matter who you've owned before as a Wolves player, the the weakness is so glaringly obvious. We can dominate possession. We can even beat high counter presses. And it just goes to show when we enter the final third, we've got nothing because our number 9 really doesn't exactly do the job better than the rest of the league. They do a job, but they just don't do it better than the rest of the league. It's as simple as that. So now that we've let Diego Costa go, really the mental comes back to Sasha Kalasic, if not the link-up play of Cunha. Now, this is something that is a little bit of an issue because Cunha was deeper towards the tail end of last season, but now he is expected to lead the line. So that may be a good thing if we give Fabio Silva a chance. But that's a very, very big if. And the true weakness of the side is that, number one, we might insist on dominating the ball. That might not even lead to chances. But our weaknesses, our main weaknesses that were carried over from Bruno Lage's era remain. We have massive, massive concentration issues at the back. Number one, I think we pretty much have one of the highest errors that lead to big chances conceded in the league. And it's very glaringly obvious that the likes of Semedo and even Lemina at times have massive concentration issues. Now, carrying more weaknesses and baggages over from Bruno Lage's area, we just don't know when to quit. If we are trailing, we will put more and more attackers on. There were games that we watched under Bruno Lage where they had like 7 wingers all on the pitch just to put in massive amounts of crosses. And it's just the same under Lopetegui. We've just thrown caution to the wind whenever we need to chase a game. And that is something that puts the onus on counter-attacking players such as Marcus Rashford, who's going to be in the prime position to score when they play Wolves in game week 1. Now, this of course assumes that Man United will take the lead early and hit Wolves on the break. But really, once again, if you're not going to capitalize on the counter-attacking weakness of Wolves, then you're looking at the flanks. Because more often than not, the likes of Pedro Neto will not back up his fullback. Time and time again, we have exposed our left back in particular. Sometimes Semedo has to fill in at left back himself. If it's not Johnny, it's going to be Bueno, a very young Bueno, if not a very attacking Nuri. We literally do not have any solidity down our left. So if you can pick a right winger that would take advantage of that weakness, there you go. I think the only issue is whether you'd like to see a goal scorer from the right side that would take advantage of it, or a creator, because a lot of players that took advantage of that weakness created from the right, and therefore the goal scorers came from the left. So look at it whichever way you choose, because the safer option would be to pick the right winger against Wolves, but the goal scorers would be the left side. The biggest example, game week 38, Jakub Kiwior, the left back, the stand-in left back for Arsenal, ghosting in at the back post to convert a right wing cross. So really just take your pick, but it's all on the flanks, if not on the counter-attack. That would be the two main weaknesses of Wolves tactically at the moment.
So if there are going to be any players for us to look at, I said avoid the attack, but Cunha at 5.5 million, I think could be a key creator or player for you. I think he's going to be the best player, the one that he looked like he was going, and now it looks like he's staying. And I think if he's in that starting 11, I think he's the main one. Maybe Kilman in defence for 4.5 million, but third bottom on the fixture ticker. They start at Man United, the managerless. They've got Brighton in the second game, Everton and Crystal Palace, but both away from home. Then they've got Liverpool, then they're away. So it's even the good fixtures that they've got, they're away from home. Then they've got City and Villa at home in 7 and 8. It's just, if you force me to choose, I would probably go for Kilman at 4.5 million. But my first choice would be Cunha at 5.5 million because I think he'll start. I think he'll be your main man. And he's 5.5 million. So if people start the season with Pedro at Brighton, and you just need someone to start games for that price because you want to have Salah in a draft, or Wolves go on a good run of fixtures after game week 10, that's not the worst thing in the world you can do. But in terms of the rest of the team, just nothing for me there. Any players that you want to pick out from Wolves?
Only one player has had a fantastic overseas stint and come back making the squad. Fabio Silva, the 40 million so-called white elephant project that now has come back to prove a point. Fabio Silva is 2 years more mature and he can work with Cunha up front as a duo. So for 5.5 as well, Fabio Silva is definitely one for the watch list. The other one would be hinging on Gary O'Neill, Wolves' potential successor and the favourite to replace him. I think the backroom staff's been nominated too. So Gary O'Neill is basically, two butt cheeks on the seat already. And Gary O'Neill tends to alternate between formations a lot. He demonstrated a remarkable versatility while he was managing Bournemouth that revolved around Philip Billing, the number 10. So would you like to take a guess on who the number 10 for Wolves is? Would you like to take
Hoping
a
it's
guess?
Cunha.
The only player that was labelled world class by Pep Guardiola, Matheus Nunes, when he was playing for Sporting. Yeah.
Oh.
So Matheus Nunes, the trump card from central midfield that can play left wing to shackle Son Heung-min successfully, is most likely going to be the number 10 for Wolves.
And that's 5
So
million.
we shall... Yeah.
So-
We wait with bated breath.
So again, I don't think that'd be the worst one to go for price. In terms of avoid, I've just put everyone else. I just put all avoid. There are cheaper goalkeepers. If Saar was 4.5 million, he could have been in the conversation as a rotating goalkeeper. I still think there are better 4.5 millions out there, but he'd have been in the conversation. 5 million, he's too much. He's the same price as Onana, right? And every other 4.5 million is too much. I said the fixtures aren't good enough. If you can find a rotating pair, then fine, but it's just an avoid for me. Is there any particular ones, traps or avoids?
So the whole squad is avoid for sure, but there you have avoids, and then you have avoids even if they look good. Avoid. So as a Wolves fan, once again, I'm picking out average players who somehow are massively overrated that are still in the club. So I'm kind of glad that Nelson Semedo finally has competition at right back, because previous seasons he had literally no one else. Jose Sa has actually a lot of errors that has crept into his game. And so the stage is set for Bentley, another 4.0 million goalkeeper, to actually step up. So Jose Sa actually I feel is a trap. Bentley is ready. Lastly, I think Huang will definitely look good in stints. But Huang, unfortunately, is used for a high counter press. So he will capitalize on some errors, but yeah, it just remains to be seen whether Huang can actually score goals, because he's just lost that bravery about him compared to when he first entered the Wolves squad. Because Huang was basically one of those players that had a low center of gravity with an underrated strength that could push through defenders, and he's just not trying anymore, which pains me to say. It's about time to let him go.
Yeah, he felt fearless when he first joined, and maybe it's injuries or lack of confidence in losing his place. It's not great. It's a bit of a damp squib to end the 20 video pre-season team selections that we've gone through, but it has been good. I've tried my best to mute myself when my daughter's shouting chocolate down the microphone. They're in a void, unfortunately. There's nothing we can do about it, and it just so happens it's your team that it's happened to a few days before we go into the start of the season. But I still think you'll survive. I still think you'll, like you said, I think you've still got the quality that's better than the ones that are below you. And it's an example I've used plenty of times in the 20 video series we've done this pre-season, that to survive a bear attack, you just have to be faster than the people you're with. And I think that's the case with Wolves. I think you're faster than the weaker teams behind you. But I think that's going to be it. Wrapping up pre-season, we will be on a live stream today, because this video should be out the day of the live stream, where all four of us at FPL IQ are going to be going through some key points, dilemmas. We're going to be looking at the last questions people are going to want answering, things like which 6.5 midfielder, which goalkeepers to look at for 4.5 million, any rotating pairs, players to pick and avoid, our drafts, things like that. It's going to be a last pre-season and first live stream altogether. So thank you for joining me on this pre-season journey, Lucian, and anyone who's watching this. Great. Hopefully see you all soon. It's going to be a great season. I'm really looking forward to it, to get back to live streams and getting us all together. I think it's going to be fantastic. Anything you want to say before we go, Lucian?
Come up with a few threads on Twitter to summarize everything that we've gone through, because realistically, going through 20 minutes, 20 videos, is a lot. So look forward to those because I'm coming up with those alongside a lot of other new manager threads that I'm pretty sure some people would have seen already. So we hope to see you soon.
Wonderful. And as always, have a good one.